I don't believe in the whole rule of, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I was young at that time, but I totally believe that we have the ability to change ourselves at any point in our lives. And for me, I realized that being shy was not helping me achieve some of the goals that I wanted to have. And so I decided to suck it up and figure out how to look somebody in the eye and say, "Hi, how are you?" And really come out of that shell. So yeah, that was a big involvement for me.
Welcome to the show. We've got my great friend Lisa Merage on today. I'm so excited. And man, this woman has a resume. If you want to go into sports, co-owner of the Sacramento Basketball Holdings. That's every team in Sacramento and the big stadium. You want to get into fashion, co-owner and former CEO of Raj Swimwear. If you own a suit, they probably made it. She's also the governor and owner of the Portland Thorns football club and is taking off as managing partner and chief impact officer in another company she founded, Revitate. We're going to get deep into fashion and the roles in the fashion industry and the different paths she can take. We're going to talk about choosing how to show up because Lisa was shy and she was always powerful, but she was shy and powerful, and now she's powerful and controlled. And we're going to get into the effect of initiative, and I cannot believe how much initiative Lisa and her brother has. Welcome to the show, and welcome to the Edge of Excellence.
Well, Lisa Merage, newly named governor of the Portland Thorns. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for making time for us. Welcome to the Edge of Excellence.
Thank you so much, Matt, for having me.
And I have to say that Lisa and I had a little conversation this morning, and she was a little bit flustered. She said, 4 years. You've been doing this for 4 years. Nicole has her podcast. How have you never asked me to come on the podcast? And I said, because Lisa, I know you don't like doing this stuff. So Lisa, it means a lot to me. You've got a lot of wisdom. We go way, way, way back. And our relationship is built on wisdom and contribution. So even though you don't like public speaking and even though you don't like to be in the limelight, I really appreciate you making time for all these 20-somethings out there that want to learn how to be like Lisa.
My pleasure, Matt. Anything for you.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into the long, successful series of different careers at a fairly young age. We're going to get into maybe even taking over the family business and weird deal structures to buy out the family. We're going to get into maybe family businesses, maybe owning a basketball team and taking your friend Matt to the game and sitting on the court, even though he doesn't know anything about basketball. And we're going to get into women's sports and Portland Thorns and locker rooms and all that stuff. But before we get into that, Lisa, I got to know, what is your definition of excellence?
So, Matt, my definition of excellence is that excellence is a way of being. It's something that you choose to be. So as you know, because we've been friends for a long time, I have mantras that I repeat every day. So in the morning, before I even get out of bed, before my feet hit the ground, I have a certain regimen. And one of my top mantras is, I am that I do my best. So to me, that's really the definition of excellence. It's about doing your best and also constantly evolving in that process.
And one time I was having lunch with Lisa and she told me her mantra. And do you remember what I did?
You cried.
I cried. I was hoping you would remember that. And coincidentally, I do life planning with the district managers at College Works. So every second Thursday, second Friday, and third Thursday, I spend the entire day, 30 minutes each, and we do life planning. And I was talking to a few of them yesterday about morning rituals and evening rituals and Jill's ritual. And you know Francisco Morales, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was telling me about his paradigm shift and where he went from being really large and, not in shape to being this ultra marathoner. And he had a paradigm shift. And I'm like, I'm going to do a paradigm shift and have an able body. What would my morning ritual be like? It would be like Jill's. What would my evening ritual be like? It'd be like Jill's. It would be stretching it would be reading, it would be rolling, I would be eating differently. And I tell the people when I'm doing these life planning sessions, like, everybody I know does this. They have their morning way of doing things. They've got their evening way of doing things. And you repeat it and you repeat it and you repeat it and you become it. And your mantras are a little longer than you just gave us a snippet of it, right?
Yes, yeah. And I mean, it's exactly what you said. It's this whole theory that I am this, I am, I am that, I do my best, and it becomes part of who you are down to like the cellular level.
All right. Okay, so I've known you a long time. So I've mentioned this before. I might even have mentioned it on some of the shows. I know Lisa because we volunteered together, and we were on a school board, and we were volunteering. And I had volunteered on quite a few boards and met some of my best friends from those boards. And I always say it's the best way to meet somebody, because they're there to contribute. They're there for free. They're not looking for anything back in return. And Lisa speaks softly but carries a big stick. So I'm a talker, and I sit there going, don't talk, don't talk, don't talk. And Lisa, she just waits and she waits. And then these things would come out, and the whole conversation would pivot. And like, oh, there's more Lisa wisdom. And we would go in a different direction. And you're waiting there, and then you kind of pounce. And so that's where my relationship with Lisa started out of, holy moly, look how smart this person is. Look how impactful this person is. Look how generous with their time this person is. I got to be friends with this person. And then we became friends, and we helped each other through some tough times. And over the years, Lisa's helped me with my marriage. Lisa's helped me with my children. Lisa's helped me with my business. Lisa's coming on the podcast. Always just kind of palm down giving, never wanting anything in return. But what a great way to kind of build a relationship. And as you're talking about your mantras, and we're going to go way back, to high school, before the first career, before the second career, before processes of finding career, before finding your specialty, before going off to graduate school and working on sustainability. Before all that, is this how you were in high school? Were you like this? Were you wise? Were you commanding respect? Were you purposeful? Were you mantra filled?
In high school, I was actually really shy. I was so shy my whole life.
You still are.
But it was worse. I would walk through hallways and people would say hello, and I'd be like, hi, looking down. And it was this thing that, I think I don't believe in the whole rule of, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I was young at that time, but I totally believe that we have the ability to change ourselves at any point in our lives. And for me, I realized that being shy was not helping me achieve some of the goals that I wanted to have. And so I decided to suck it up and figure out how to look somebody in the eye and say, hi, how are you? And really come out of that shell. So that was a big involvement for me.
Is that your mom? Did she tell you that? How did you figure that out?
No, I don't. I think it was because I was interested in, as you say, like philanthropy and giving back is a core tenet to who I am and who our family is. And I wanted to get involved with Key Club, which at the time was the largest organization on campus in my high school. And it was a philanthropic organization that had different causes. And it was only for men, only for boys. I guess it was boys in high school.
I didn't know that. So when I was in high school, Key Club was only for boys?
Yeah, it was. There were no girls allowed.
Oh,
and so I decided I wanted to get involved with it. They were talking about opening it up. And so I ran for, I was treasurer my junior year in high school. And so I had to learn to speak up so that I could run for treasurer and get involved and do all these wonderful things and give back to, foster kids in the community. And then when I was a senior, I actually became the first female president of this male-dominated organization that for years and years and years had only been for men. And I guess that was the beginning of making a change for women in this world.
Wow, we're going to spend some time on women in business. I just want to back up before we get there. And you've been the first female president of the Key Club. Are you the first female governor of the professional soccer league that you own a team in?
No, there are a couple others, but there's only a few of us.
There was another first too. There's another first for women that I remember that you've done. What is it? You were the first female Gen X president, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yes, I was. I don't really think of it in those terms. I just kind of do
Yeah,
what
you
I
know what?
do.
You know, the strong women I meet, I know, and I know a lot of strong women. And Lisa and this person, Nicole, who we got a podcast from, Nicole McMacken and I are like this triangle friendship, and they're strong women. And I know a lot of strong women, and most of them are aware but don't concentrate on it. They're aware that maybe they're the first. They're aware that maybe there's a little bit more of an uphill battle, but they don't concentrate on it. They just make it happen. They're not victims. I mean, you and Nicole are anything but a victim. I mean, that word would never be used.
No, never.
Either of you. You're just making it happen. So I just want to back up though. So you're in high school, you're the shy person, and you realize that being shy isn't helping you achieve your goals. How did you do that? And maybe someone listening right now, shy, or maybe they're angry, or maybe they're negative, or maybe they're whatever's not helping them reach their goals. How did you realize that?
Well, I mean, I think it goes back to what I said. It is a choice. It is a choice how you show up. I've learned this lesson over and over again in my life. Everything from being shy as a teenager to becoming a stepmom to three wonderful yet sometimes challenging stepsons. And, how you show up is your choice. You can choose to be angry. You could choose to be shy. You could choose to be happy. And it's all within your control and in your power. You can't control what other people do, but you can control yourself.
Yeah, but people in high school don't know that. My daughter doesn't know that. And I've talked to Kennedy and I've said, hey, Kennedy, choose kindness and happiness will follow. And she's not getting it. Now, her friend, Emmy, who was over here the other day, is talking about how positive she is. And Emmy's been through and I want you to talk to Emmy, by the way. She's going to fashion school in New York. We're going to lunch with Emmy. She used to live here for half the year. Back in the day, I've talked to you about her. Wonderful girl. Went through some stuff. And she's really positive because of it. And she made that choice. Now, you didn't have the same upbringing as Emmy. I didn't have the same upbringing as Emmy. But how do you become wise like that? I chose how to show up. I realize it's not serving me. My daughter doesn't realize that her negativity is not serving her. My daughter doesn't how did you realize that?
It's just, I don't know. I think that part of it is like having parents that lead by example. My mom is huge on mindset. Literally, like she could have cancer and she'd be like, I don't have cancer. I mean, she is the most powerful mind of anyone that I've seen. And my parents are both that way. So even with your daughter, I'm sure that you say these things and probably privately when she's not around you, she's wonderful and kind and friendly and happy. It's just when she's
she's wonderful and she's kind, but sometimes she'll be a little aggressive and it creates a little lack of unhappiness. Now, she's her. She's a wonderful, wonderful
she
kid.
is.
I mean, and I know your kids, and Vaughn's pretty damn wise. By the way, Vaughn is the future CEO of what's the company called? What's your company called?
Revitate is.
No, not Revitate.
Raj Capital. Yeah.
Raj Capital. So no, he's not the future CEO of Revitate. He's the future CEO of Raj Capital. And it's coming fast. It's coming fast. So he's very wise, right? He's wise at a young age. He sees this stuff. Charlie,
he's an old soul.
Yeah, he's an old soul. Charlie is also wise, but Vaughn's there's people that you see once in a while that just kind of get it early. And then there's some people that never get it. And then, there's the rest of us that are probably getting it pretty fast. You got it pretty early. Vaughn got it pretty early. You started to get this wisdom early. How you show up matters. What you bring to the equation matters. If something goes wrong, what can you learn from it? You were doing that in high school. Yeah?
I was, but I mean, just like any teenager, you're still kind of figuring it out. So all you could do is look to your parents, look to your mentors, listen to things like your podcast here. And, Matt, you're an inspiration to so many young people in your world and kind of like follow their lead. That's really all you can do. We are all imperfect. We all make mistakes. We don't always have perfect days. But it just takes kind of like time and belief in yourself. And again, like choosing how you show up.
Yeah. And and I was talking to a guy just now who went to his fiance and he's like, hey, I'm not helping you out with the wedding planning. I haven't done a really good job. I need to be more attentive. I can tell it's bothering you. And she's like, where'd you get this from? Oh, I talked to Matt. And so she comes to me and she says, hey, you talked to Corey. He's totally turned around. I'm like, wait a second. I told Corey what I did wrong. I told Corey that I've just cut Jill loose on the house and she's getting super frustrated because I don't really care. And he took that bad example and turned it into a good example. So you're looking for the mentors, you're looking for leaders, you're looking for opportunities to learn and grow, whether what you're seeing is good or not good. And where were you at in high school? We got to do a shout out to high school.
The Chronomar High School in
you were
Newport
at
Beach.
CDM High School. I was going to say
CDM.
uni. Okay, shout out to CDM. And then you go off to college. You're still, I found this out later in life too, that most of us entrepreneurs are actually introverts and we just pretend to be extroverts. So you're still introverted, you're still shy. You go off to college. You figured out how to choose how you show up. And where'd you go to college? How do I not know when you went to college?
I went to USC, so.
Oh, because I blocked it out of my mind.
Not that far away. Incredible school, though.
Well, we're not going to talk about that. So you go off to USC. I went to UC Santa Barbara. And what was life like? How did you see yourself? And did you know you were going into the swimsuit business?
No, I mean, I really believe that college is the time when you figure out what you want to do. So, no, I went to USC again, like trying to get out of my shy shell. I rushed, I went through sorority rush, joined a sorority, again, had to like dig deep to put myself out there, going through the process and found my perfect home. But, college is the time when you really try different things. Even, my son is also a sophomore in college at University of Miami. And I said to him, this is when you try internships in different areas and you can do completely different things and it doesn't matter because this is when you're figuring out what you want. And if you go through an internship and you hate it, then you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go totally a different direction. So, for me, I had interest in both the fashion industry and the sports industry. So I interned between my sophomore and junior year. I was working. I was always a worker. I had a job since I was like 15. But I did an internship between my sophomore and junior year for a company called the Orange County Sports Association that at the time put on a couple of the bowl games. And I learned from that experience.
What do you mean they put on the bowl game?
They put on, it was called the Freedom Bowl and the Disneyland Pigskin Classic. So they're like college bowl games that I don't think either of them exist anymore. But I worked for them. And, at that time, internships were like a lot of grabbing coffee and filing and learning through osmosis and listening to what happens around you. And not quite as organized as it is nowadays with a lot of the internships. But what I learned in that summer is that sports was a man's world, and I was just okay leaving it that way. It was very male dominated. If I was going to be a female going into sports, it was going to be like a big boulder I would have to push uphill. And so I had that experience, and I'm like, okay, I would have loved to have had a career in sports, but I guess not. This is just not for me. It doesn't sit well. My gut is telling me this is not the right place for me. And then the next year, I interned for a company that had about 600 stores focused on, we'll say, like teenage girls. It's called like juniors, what the term is in the fashion industry. So it was equivalent to like maybe like a Brandy Melville nowadays. And this company, it was called Wet Seal. I don't think they're around anymore, but I interned for them and did everything back then on my hands and knees, cutting swatches of fabric, putting up what was coming in with the deliveries. And actually, the CEO saw me and liked what I did and liked that I took initiative with a lot of the processes and offered me a job. So she actually offered me a job as an assistant buyer during my senior year. So my senior year of college, I put all my classes on 2 days and drove up to LA 2 days a week. With 8-10 hour days of classes, and then worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday as an assistant buyer for this company.
How you do one thing is how you do everything. So that was back in college. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And people start noticing, so doors start opening up. So you're at Wet Seal, and I've heard this before. I've got someone that works with us. She got all these job offers as a sophomore in college, full-time job offers with high pay, because people notice when you have initiative, and people notice when you show up the way you show up, and people notice when you take ownership and look to deliver value. So you said an assistant buyer. What is an assistant buyer?
So a buyer is somebody who buys for a certain category. So I was in charge. I was her assistant buyer in knit tops. So any like tops like the one I'm wearing in the store, then we would shop the market and put together our product assortments of what we wanted to carry in the store. And I would write orders on her behalf. I would track selling to see what was selling and what wasn't, and reorder styles that were selling well, and then work on marking down those that don't sell well. So, and then I managed basically the budget. So there was a budget of how much money we had to spend in our category.
Okay, so we're going to go a few different ways here. We got to go into the fashion realm. We got to go into the sports realm. I don't know if I mentioned, if you're a basketball fan, you probably know that the Sacramento Kings are the greatest basketball team of all time. And Lisa and her family are a part of the ownership team of the Sacramento Kings. If you're a soccer fan, you know that the world has changed. The entire sports world has been changed. Collegiate sports world has changed. Everything's changed because of women's soccer. And Lisa has recently purchased the Portland Thorns and has been named the governor of the Portland Thorns. So we're going to get into sports. But Lisa also had this fashion career. And it started off at Wet Seal as a buyer. We're going to get into that fashion career too. And I think we'll start with the fashion career. We're going to go two different ways. The part of the show is, what do you do? So I don't know if I told you this before, but the average college student knows of 25 careers. And most of them are the ones on TV. They know a little bit about what their parents do. They don't really know what their friends' parents do. They know what's on TV. And for every job that they know about, there's 2,000 that they don't know about. So people want to go into fashion, and maybe they know what merchandising is, but they don't really understand it. So your diving into fashion was at Wet Seal, and was it a retail? I remember Wet Seal being a giant warehouse building that was manufacturing. Did they start off as a retail store?
No, yeah, actually, you might have seen the big building because it was the corporate headquarters, but no, they actually didn't produce their own product. They bought from the market. And like I said, had about 600 stores across the United States, mostly in like shopping malls.
Okay, so you're a buyer, and the buyer, an assistant buyer, works with the non-assistant buyer. And what you're saying is you're sifting through all the opportunities, all the different clothing that's made, all the swimsuits that made, all the wetsuits that are made, to find the right ones for that brand, right? So what does a buyer do, and what made you a skillful buyer?
Sure. So, and I was a buyer for a year before, I should say. I went on the other side, which was the family business, which we would design, manufacture, and sell women's swimwear. So I was on the other side. But basically, what buyers do is they go to what's called market. Oftentimes, they're in New York. There could be trade shows in different places. But all of the companies that design, manufacture, and sell products show up during these weeks. And they have appointments where the buyers come in and they show their product collections. And they say, you know, here's this style in pink and here's this style in blue. And what do you prefer? And do you like this top or do you like this bottom? And get feedback from the buyers. The buyers make notes, and then they actually get to select what goes on the retail floor. So it's kind of like being, we'll say, like, if there's somebody out there that loves to shop, it's kind of like being a shopper on steroids, because you're actually selecting product that will go in stores, or nowadays on e-com, you know, online, on websites, for everyone to buy from.
But the business fails or succeeds based on what you buy.
Yes.
You have to buy the things that are going to sell. So
yes.
One thing you're doing is going to this 1 week. I've got to get into one of the other 51 weeks a year. So you're going to this, and there's hundreds and thousands of these choices. You're helping them adjust their product to be better for your brand. How does someone that's 20-something years old know if they would be good at being a buyer? You have good style?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is like, do you like fashion? Do you have good style? Do people always say, "Oh my gosh, your dress so cute. I love that top. Where did you get it?" Then if you think of it in those terms, that might be something that's really great for you, because it's having an eye. It's knowing when you see all these products, like, what are the fashion trends? What have I been seeing around nowadays? It's like, what am I seeing on social media? What am I seeing on Instagram and TikTok? What are influencers wearing? And how do I take that, the trend? Just recently we saw the red carpets with a lot of the award shows, and there was a lot of red on the red carpet, and red is the color of the season. So that obviously means red needs to be in the stores. And I bet if you went in now, you'd see red in the stores with a lot of product.
I've never heard any of those phrases that you just mentioned. You look really good. That outfit is nice. How'd you put that together? So I guess
I say them to your wife.
Yes, I know. I've never heard of anybody. So I wouldn't be a good buyer, but you said to me a few times about my son, Jake, he's got good style. So you have the eye or you don't. He's got the eye. He does that cool stuff that I mean, I know it's cool. I know it looks cool, but I have to wait until it's there. You can go out and find it if you're going to be a buyer. And then, so you're selecting what goes on the floor. You're helping people adjust. You've got this great style. You've got a great style. You're into doing the research and figuring out what's out there and going through all these different various ways of figuring out where the style's going. The person that made the first red dress, though, set the style. The people that are on the red carpet are setting the style. The influencers are setting the style. You're forward thinking. You're predicting what the next style is. I mean, I went to your swimsuit manufacturing. You had to know what the style's going to be. Like, what was it, 9 months in advance, a year in advance?
Yeah, it could be like a year in advance. But I mean, I think that's part of the skill set is, can you sniff out these trends before they happen? What are you seeing out there? As there's trends in business and a lot of different things, but can we kind of predict through? I mean, and there are services, like there's trend forecasting services that exist. And then you look at even some of like the designer brands, and there's commonalities. It could be that in any given season, like this one, maybe it's red. Last season, it was more purple. But what becomes the color of the season? What is the direction? And then how do you interpret that in your own collections, I guess, when you're on the other side? And how do you interpret that if you're a buyer for your store?
So you're doing this buyer job, which is kind of helping you understand the other side. You only stay there for a year, and then you jump ship to Raj Manufacturing. And Raj Manufacturing was located in California, did its manufacturing in California. Actually, it was like walking distance from my current office. And you were making all sorts of brands. I know Tommy Hilfiger. I know Luxe by Lisa Vogel. What other brands were you manufacturing?
Yeah, we had a portfolio of our own and licensed brands. And you're right, we were the last and the largest domestic swimwear manufacturer in the country. So we actually used to cut and sew our product in Orange County, California, until it got to the point where, the cost of labor and workers' comp and everything, unless everyone wants to buy $400 swimsuits, then, we're chased out of being able to provide those jobs, unfortunately, in California.
Will they make me look skinny? Because I would pay $400 if it makes me look skinny.
But, we had a lot of different brands that we owned and licensed. So we had our own brands. Athena, I had my brand, Luxe by Lisa Vogel. Next was another one of our brands. And then we owned the licenses for a portfolio brand. So those that you might know, or like you said, Tommy Hilfiger, Nautica, Guess, St. John, which is an Orange County-based American luxury brand. Ella Moss, Splendid, O'Neill, Hurley, Reef. There were probably more that I'm forgetting. But what happens in a lot of industries is that these big brands find category specialists like us. So Guess, if you know the brand Guess, and Guess has been around for a long time, then that's a really great example, because especially when we were working with them, they would make the clothing, but then they would license out their sunglasses to a company called Luxottica that would make for a lot of different brands. They would license out swimwear to us. They would license out handbags to somebody that made handbags in the market for a lot of different brands. These were all category specialists that really know that market inside and out. They know how to design the right product. They know how to interpret the style. And we would work with the brand to make sure that the product didn't look like there was somebody else that was designing and manufacturing it. But it was, we basically would design it, manufacture it, and then sell it back to the buyers and then sell it back to the marketplace that way.
Okay, so you moved from the buyer to this category specialist manufacturing firm, and just to paint the picture, a giant warehouse with all sorts of people in rows with sewing machines, sewing swimsuits in one building, and then the other building that was just crazy. You got all these swatches of fabric, and Lisa explained to me how the fabric works, and you have to buy the prints, and you have to select which print is going to be the right print. And so they got all the prints on the walls, and they're picking which fabrics, and there's people designing and people figuring out the fabrics. And that's the design element. There's the marketing element. There was the sales element. There's accounting element. So there's all. I mean, it's big business. It still is big business. You slid into that business, and what was your path? What was your career path at Raj Manufacturing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I started at the bottom. I came on board to start our marketing department. We didn't have one. So I figured out how to do it. I had a business plan. Actually, I was a business major with my emphasis in marketing in college. So I learned how to put together basically a marketing plan, and I wrote one up for our company, and I pitched my parents on the idea. They hired me away from Wet Seal, where I had an offer from another department store, and then I had the offer from the family business for much less money than my other offers. But I thought it was an opportunity. So
I hope you bought them out for much less money than they expected when you bought them out.
But I started at the bottom, and I would do things like the billing, and I'd be with my hair on fire as I would see the trucks pulling up, and I was trying to like do the invoicing. Sometimes when things got busy, then, all of us, my parents led by example with this too, all of us would just roll up our sleeves and go into the warehouse and start pulling product off the shelves and putting it in boxes if we were running late. So, sometimes you'd be out there in the warehouse sweating, trying to get this product out. But with that, I can honestly say that, especially my brother and I, we started just like our parents did at the bottom, rolling up our sleeves. Nothing was above us. I mean, nothing was below us. Nothing was below us. We would do anything for the business. And I think that's, again, probably another core tenet or value of our family is humility. We have the saying that's check your ego at the door. And especially when I look at even nowadays, people I hire in my business now, in our business, it's about, are they humble? And do they feel like something is, below them? Because that's not the type of person that will work for us. We are all people that are not afraid to roll up our sleeves. We are not above doing anything, and working hard is really important to our family.
Well, you've got the humility, you've got the hard work ethic, and then back to that ownership again. We're just going to get it done. We're not victims. We're just going to make it happen. So you came in with this marketing plan. You came in to start the marketing department, but you're working in billing. You're working in all different areas of the company. In that kind of entrepreneurial world, you have to do that. But when I went to the office and I saw the marketing department was up and running, right? So how long did it take to go from no marketing and you doing all these different things and your brother doing all these different things, and shout out to Alex, he's a wonderful person, to you guys having these different roles? And you were young. I guess you're proving yourself.
Yeah. I mean, and when you work in a family business, I mean, probably some of, when a lot of your listeners may have an opportunity to go into a family business. And what we learned is that when you work in a family business, you almost have to prove yourself from day one. I mean, there's time and time again where people would be new employees and they would say like, oh, those are the owner's kids. And we would have to work harder, faster, smarter, and better to prove ourselves, to gain that respect. Because, it's very easy to slip into the, daddy's business or mommy's business kind of thing. But no, you have to work harder and put your stamp on things. So Alex got his MBA and came on board. I came on board after undergrad, and we worked together. I think the four of us, my mom, my dad, my brother, and I, were a great combination because we worked hard. We doubled the size of the business. We continued to grow. It was over many years. It didn't happen overnight, but it was like putting systems in place, and slowly but systematically growing the business and more bringing it from an entrepreneurial environment to like having a little bit more structure.
Okay, so shout out to your parents too. And I've said this to your dad a few times. There's just a few of these parents where I'm like, wow, they did a good job. Baldwin, your parents, Paul Merage, you. And all we want to do is be the best parent we can be. And wow, you think about just the humility. We're going to let our kids in. We're going to make them equal. And we're going to work together as a foursome instead of a twosome. I mean, there's just lots of great parenting decisions that they made that helped you on your trajectory. So you have your work ethic, you have your values that your family instilled in, you have your ownership, you have all this, but you also have these parents that are just doing a great, and I know Alex too. Alex, humble is probably the first thing that comes out of people's mouth if they were going to describe Lisa and Alex. Well, hardworking. I would say too hardworking on Alex's side. Like, come on, take a break. Hardworking, humble. The parents are doing such a good job, and they bring you in, and you're running the business together, and the business doubles in size and becomes more of a professional business. And then one day something crazy happened, and you don't have to go too deep into the details, but you and Alex bought out your parents. So your parents were able to exit the business with a bunch of money that they used to buy the basketball team. And you and Alex are now in charge with private equity as your partner. Give us a quick story of that.
Yeah, it's funny because I guess, in family businesses, kind of you think, well, I'm going to go into the family business and one day it'll be mine, but it's actually not that way, especially the more successful the company is. So we were faced with the decision of like, how do we transfer it to the next generation? And at that time, we decided to basically bring in private equity partners to buy us out. And that was a way to kind of transfer it down to the next generation. And at the same time, take some chips off the table. So,
how does someone else coming in to buy you out transfer it to you?
With a lot of good attorneys and tax planning. I guess that's how it works.
And a lot of hitting goals and earning the little points that the deal had in it.
Yeah, we didn't do an earnout. I think you're referring to an earnout, which we didn't do. We just had an agreement that Alex and I would stay on for a period of time running the business, which we did until we chose to step down and a management team was brought in.
Okay, so you're running the family business. Mom and dad have gone off to set up the family office, and then it happened again. And they sucked you back in. And then and you're in your beautiful office right now, I can see. And I think your mom's office is right behind you, isn't it?
Right. Alex's is behind me. My mom and dad's is in front of me. So yes, we all are here together.
And you used to have a different office where you're all there together. So you just keep getting drawn back in to this wonderful experience of the four of you working together. And so you left the fashion business. So you wanted to go into sports. You went into fashion because it's a man's world in sports. You get into the family business now, and the family business has gone a couple ways. You have sports holdings where you have a bunch of different teams. You have Revitalize, what's it called?
Revitate,
which I damn well should know because you know why? I have your bio here. By the way, I don't know if you've ever read your bio. I'm just going to read it to you real quick because it's pretty damn impressive. Co-founder, Chief Impact Officer, and Managing Partner at Revitate. Building upon the success of Raj Capital Family Investment Office, she leads the firm's social impact strategies, which I want to get into, and serves on the investment committee. Co-owner of the Sacramento Basketball Holdings, which owns Sacramento Kings, Sacramento River Cats, Golden Center, Stockton Kings, Kings Guard, and Downtown Commons Entertainment Sports District. Co-owner and former CEO of Raj Swim, an award-winning vertically integrated apparel company. Board member of Orange County Museum of Art. Former board member of St. Mary's School. Shout out to St. Mary's School. Sage Hill School, and Jack Next. And now governor of the Portland Thunder. That's a pretty impressive resume, and I've never looked at it before. I actually sent it to Nicole too. So you come back to the family business, and you don't do the fashion thing. You don't do the sports thing. I mean, you're in the Sacramento Kings thing, but your brother's kind of doing the Kings thing, and you're like, I'll let him do the Kings thing. And you get into this social impact, and you go back to college and get another degree. So here's, you don't want to, you call it evolving. You're having this evolution. But this one's a little bit different. So what drew you to that, and what were you doing there?
Well, I think it was during COVID. So I serve here at Revitate, which is an investment platform that focuses on the things that we say we know best, which are consumer products, sports, and real estate, with the thread of social impact throughout. So my job here is, as Chief Impact Officer, I measure the social impact that we're creating with our investments. And kind of like when we started this, my brother Alex said, well, you know a lot about philanthropy and nonprofit work, because I was at that time on 4 nonprofit boards. So you should be in charge of our social impact. And I'm like, okay, I will figure this out. And COVID hit. And so I decided during that time to use my time wisely. And I enrolled, and I applied, and it was accepted and enrolled in a program at the University of Pennsylvania for a certificate in social impact strategy. So it was an 8-month program that was all online. And I, luckily during COVID had time to be able to do that. And that allowed me to, do a case study kind of with our company and learn the tools that I needed in order to really put together systems around how we measure the good that we're doing. So, like, for instance, if we have a real estate investment and it's in an area called an opportunity zone, which is a government designated area that needs revitalization, but the government doesn't have the money to do it, we can invest private money into that area, into building something in that place. And so I track things like, how many jobs are created in building this new building? Are there more jobs that were created or more permanent after it's completed? Are there green spaces that were added? Are there cultural amenities like a museum or, a sports district? Are we adding Wi-Fi into an area that didn't exist? And just in general, trying to lift up this area and revitalize it. So that's kind of what I do in social impact.
And it's interesting because that's a strategy, right? That's a strategy of the organizations that you're involved in. And you said thread of social impact. So if we look at the Sacramento Kings, they had that downtown area. Sacramento Kings is just a basketball team, right? Play basketball, people watch, people win, people lose. But no, we're going to take downtown Sacramento. We're going to take this dilapidated mall. We're going to revitalize, not just build a stadium, but we're going to revitalize the whole area and bring it to a point where people want to come and spend time. And the craziest part about it is finance with the future parking sales. They had all these parking lots for all the government people in Sacramento. They're only working 8 hours a day or 6.5 because they're in the government. And these parking lots are completely empty, generating no revenue. So if you build a stadium there, and you build some hotels there, and you build some shops there, and you build some restaurants, and you put some parks in, and you bring jobs in, the parking revenue goes up, and you guys borrowed against that to build the stadium, which I always think is absolutely genius. You're looking at me like I got it wrong. Did I get it wrong?
No, you're good.
Okay, because on this show, it doesn't matter if I get it right or wrong. This is not a show about facts. So, but you lift the whole area, and I've been there. I used to go there a lot because I had company there, and we would go down to that downtown area with all the young people, and they'd take me out partying, and just everything comes up. And then you go to the real estate, and it's social impact real estate, it's opportunity zones, and we're not doing it if it doesn't have that element. And then you get into sports, and you're passionate about women in business and passionate about women's sports, and you get into the Portland Thunder.
Portland Thorns.
Okay, I'm allowed to say all the names wrong because it's my show, and you can't get upset. And part of your job as the governor is to make sure people don't say, and I'm not a sports person. Okay, so we're going to keep going.
I do, but it's important that we say Portland Thorns so we can gain some new fans.
Well, then we're going to do one of these. And then you move into the Portland, and we're going to edit out all that part where I screwed up the name wrong. And then you get into the Portland Thorns, and again, social impact. And I can't wait. And we're going to spend some time on the sports. I cannot wait to see what you do, what the family does, what the business does, what the organization does around the area in Portland. And I cannot wait to see what happens to women's soccer. And you know, my wife, Jill, is the #1 soccer fan in the world. And she's also a really big women's soccer fan. And so I watch a lot of women's soccer. And Jill used to play. She played against some of these. I know she played against Mia Hamm when she was in college. So she's just in it. And we're so excited to see what happens with the Thorns. But right after you guys purchased the Thorns, you guys got a TV contract. And I came and told Jill about the TV contract. I said, hey, Jill, they got a TV contract. And she goes, thank God. She's so excited. So you have this thread of social impact. You go through fashion. You go through fashion manufacturing. You get into sports, which we're going to get to. You get into all this charity work you do, which is social impact, never for yourself. But tell me about what happened with the purchase of the team, and tell me about the locker room, and tell me about what was going on and what's going to be going on.
Oh gosh, so much. Well, I mean, just in general, we invested in this league, the NWSL, National Women's Soccer League, because we really believe in the growth of women's sports. And, this was the year that this last year people talked about Taylor Swift and Barbie, and this is the year of the woman. And we're like, no, it's not the year of the woman. This is like an inflection point. And women's soccer is key to that. I think both women's soccer and basketball we believe will be big growth opportunities and on very, fast trajectories in the future. So yeah, I mean, being in the sports business, we get a lot of information and presentations that come across our desk. And this one came a while ago, and then we decided to look into it. And then I went up to a game, and not only did I see a quality of play that was exceptional with the team that we have and the players that we have, but the fans.
I believe your team is the best team, right?
Last year we did not win the championship, but this year, I think this year we're just going to put out in the universe. This is the year.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. And the quality of play is amazing.
The quality of play is amazing. I mean, we kind of joke that this team is like buying the New York Yankees of women's soccer. They are the most winning team. And yeah, I mean, and the fans in Portland are incredible. Incredible.
And there's no better women's soccer league in the entire world, right?
Right.
And I watch a lot of soccer. And, we're big Chelsea fans, but Jill watches it all. She watches South American soccer. She watches France. She watches Italy. She watches all the Premier League. And the men's soccer league in America, a lot of the great players will go overseas.
Right.
But the women's soccer is the best in the world. How many World Cups has women's soccer won?
I should know this, but I literally don't even know because there's
a number. Let's take that out.
Okay.
We're going to take that part out. And women's soccer, they keep winning all the World Cups. And we sit here at the house, we're cheering. So you're in the best league with the best team, and continue your story.
Yeah, best league and best team. And, in general, it's really interesting because when you look at the landscape of women's soccer, it makes sense that this would be the best league in the world, the NWSL, because here we have the best, we have the players, we have the facilities, we have the training centers, we have the technology. Like we in the United States, we know how to market. We have the media rights. So we're really excited about, investing in the NWSL and specifically the Portland Thorns, because it's just going to grow and grow. And something that I guess circles back full circle for me is, back when I was in college and had this internship and realized it was a man's world. It's kind of funny how your life winds up, because I've had this different path where I spent many years building women's consumer brands. then having social impact responsibilities. And now this is kind of combining everything. It's like, how do we continue to build our brand? Our goal at the Portland Thorns is to be the #1 women's franchise globally for women's soccer. And we believe that the Portland Thorns has, can be marketed and will gain fans across the world. We'll gain fans in Japan and in obviously Europe and possibly in India and in Africa. And we're putting
women's soccer in America gained soccer fans.
Yes.
The women's soccer that brought soccer into American view. Yeah.
I don't know.
They were winning. Yes, they were winning well, in my family, it did. They're winning all the World Cups. Like, well, they're the best. Let's start watching this stuff. Oh, wait, I'm watching the women's soccer. This is pretty cool. They don't score a lot of goals. I can't watch it. That's what you hear from the football people. And then you see it's the excellence. It's the unbelievable excellence of things that are impossible that happen. And so I'm watching this women's World Cup every time it happens. And all of a sudden, I'm watching the men's soccer too, because the excellence of the touches and it's just a miracle, right? So I think I'm right about that. So I have to ask you though. So you're a woman in business, and you belong to Gen X. I don't know what percentage of the membership at Gen X was women. Probably more because you were in charge of it, but it's low. YPO, it's 8%, and worldwide, I believe 3% worldwide of CEOs and entrepreneurs are women, 12% in the United States. So you're in this man's world, I guess, and you're turning it into a woman's world. And I remember when you showed me the locker room, and we're having lunch, and you show me your phone, and you say, look at this locker room. And I look at the locker room, and I think, that's a pretty nice locker room. Better than the locker room I had, better than the locker room of the Sacramento Kings when they were at that old stadium that I went into. Looks pretty nice to me. And then you flip the screen and you said, look at the men's. And it looked like a Vegas nightclub. It's got like all this recessed, wonderful lighting. And I wondered, I just thought for a second, is that what it's like to be a woman in business? Is that what it's like? Everything is this second-rate stuff. And what are you doing about that?
It's funny, Matt, because I think some of it is how you look at it again. And I don't necessarily see things as second rate with women. I mean, I think women in general.
Well, that locker room was second rate.
The locker room needs improvement. And, when we saw the locker room, we were like, this is for elite athletes and we're going to fix this. And it's just as simple as that. I mean, the other thing that we're doing is we've committed to the league that we will be building a world-class practice facility. So actually, I'm even going out next week and we're looking at sites. And we will be building a world-class practice facility where our corporate headquarters will be as well, because again, like these are elite athletes and they need the best. And there should be no difference between men and women at all. Except that some of the things might be sized more for women and maybe not for men, little idiosyncrasies.
Yeah. So, but what was it like coming through this path? And I always tell people you're going to deal with prejudice. I'm a 6'2" white guy. So maybe I don't have to deal with it as much, but I've been young, and so I had ageism. And so you're going to have to deal with prejudice no matter what at some point in time, classism, some sort of prejudice. But coming up through the path, was it harder because you're a woman? And I know Nicole and you talk about it. Nicole's got her women in business thing at USC and at UCLA. You both are promoting women in business. And I saw your face, by the way, when I said you have to go to lunch with Emmy. I saw you put one of these. Like, oh no, Matt's going to set me up with somebody. Because you're damn impressive. And you talk about mentors. I know you talked to Lydia. You've talked to a few people in my business. Because you never know where you're going to get a mentor. You never know when you can look up to somebody. You never know who's going to set the example for you. And when you set the example for me, I'm a better person because of my conversations with you, because of some of the example. I think about you and Alex. I'm like, oh my God, I need to get off my butt and start working harder. Like I put in a really hard day. I'll be like, oh, I bet you Alex and Lisa put in a harder day. So you're going to have to take that role, unfortunately, of being one of these strong women that I know, that I'm going to connect to other up and coming strong women I know. But what was different? What what needs to change? What are you moving the needle on right now in that area?
I mean, I think in general, it's just, for me, it's about leading by example, and that's it. It's not getting caught up with big, initiatives in the world of women in business. It's just, what can I do to lead by example to make an impact in this world? I believe in my core, in my soul, that this new role as being the governor of the Portland Thorns, which we look at as not ownership, we look at it as being stewards of a beloved community asset. So, and Alex is the alternate governor, and we're doing this together with my mom and my dad also. But I look at this as actually the reason why I exist. I believe that all of these experiences and career evolvements that I've had have all led me to this place. And my goal is to see what I can do to impact women in sports and women in the business in sports for generations to come.
And I was talking to this guy Caleb that works with me, and we're doing that life planning thing, and that was one of his points. We're all here for a reason, and when you figure out you're here for a reason, and you figure out what that reason may be, and you may figure out that wasn't it, it's a different thing, then you just get going. If you have work ethic, if you have that ability to understand that you control how you show up. So you're leading by example. And you know what, as you were talking, I was thinking, in my interactions with you, I don't think anybody ever has thought about what sex you are or what I am. It's just what the impact is, or in my case, maybe lack of impact. It's a person that is providing impact. It's a person that's providing love and care and concern. It's a person that's lifting things up, and it doesn't matter color, race, age, size, any of that. So you're leading by example. And then I was thinking as well, that's what you do as a parent too. You're not a lecturer. You're a leader, right?
I think that's where you have the most impact. It's just leading by example. However, if you ask my kids what I do for work, I'm not sure what they would say.
Well, if you ask my kids if I'm a lecturer, they would say, yes, you are, Dad. So think back to your 20s. You've got these mantras that you do every morning. I don't know if you did that in your 20s. You've got these routines that you have. I don't know if you did that in your 20s. You surround yourself with people that are lifting you up. You're married to a wonderful, wonderful man, Richard Merage, who's lifting everybody up around him. What of your being, what of who you are started in your 20s, and you thought, okay, I got to keep doing this? What have you mastered that you started in your 20s?
What did I master? I think part of it was, like you said earlier, it's about taking initiative, being a self-starter and seeing the world a certain way and thinking, how can I improve on it? Even if my boss didn't tell me to do it this way, what can I do differently? That's really important.
So something in those interpersonal skills you have must have started when you were young and you were working to master. I think a lot of it is you control how you show up. I think a lot of it is the initiative. I think a lot of it is the drive, the work ethic, the lead by example. But what have you been doing all your life to be so likable? Why do people impactful? Like you're a wonderful friend. What have you done to be that way?
Gosh, that's a hard question to answer. I'm just me. That's all it is. But I think it's maybe, again, approaching life. I remember my husband on probably our second date asked me, like, what is the purpose of life? And I have no idea where this came from, but I literally pulled it out, like, the purpose of life is to give back to society in one way, shape, or form. And this is something that we talk about at the dinner table, and basically how I live my life, how my parents, led by example is, what is your purpose? You may not know what it is, even at a young age, but if you know that you're supposed to give back to society, or we are all here to give back to society in one way, shape, or form, whether that's a business or nonprofit work or being a really great mom, whatever it is, then you, I think, can just, have that in the back of your mind and move forward and do what you do, and wonderful things will happen.
You work at being you. I work at being me. You're not just you. You're not. You stop, you analyze, you learn. You have a coach that you've talked about. You've got the mantra was new when I was crying at the lunch table. It didn't exist before. You're out there trying to be a better version of yourself so you can then do what you just said. You're constantly working at. Last question, and I'm going to let you go. What sacrifice did you make in your early years that seemed like a big sacrifice that you look back and you're like, thank God I made that sacrifice?
I think for me, the sacrifice was deciding to take a job my senior year, a full-time job. I mean, it was not easy to sit in 1 to 2 hours of traffic driving up to LA and back, and basically foregoing my social life my senior year to think about the future and have those experiences. And when I graduated from college, it enabled me to have these other job offers, like I mentioned, because I was a little bit early to the show. And that showed, it even showed to like prospective employers that here's somebody who's dedicated, who's committed, who can multitask.
Who's got initiative.
Mature. I mean, like moving out of the fun college years. So that was a sacrifice that paid off for many years to come for me.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for making time. I don't know if you noticed I use no cuss words on this episode. I never cuss around Lisa. She brings the best out of me. Thank you for making time. Thank you for bringing the best out of me, as always. Thank you for helping other people bring the best out of them. Thank you for being on the edge of excellence.
Thank you for having me, Matt.